Julie, hello. A few things to address up top. My voice isn't great. I'm sick, just like you. If you are sick, I can't remember. I think you said you were sick, and I'm sorry. But if you weren't sick, I'm glad you're in good health. Second, I have my air conditioner running, so I think the sound probably isn't great. Third, I have this weird tuft of beard hair that I need to figure out, so that may distract during the video. So I'll try to make it quick so it's less distracting. But I loved your solution to this idea of old books being relevant because of the questions that persist, even if their lessons don't persist. And I like that, and that made me think of this. This is a play. It's not quite a book, but it's presented in a book form, so it counts. Carolyn Pearson. This is a play about a Mormon couple, a husband and wife, whose adult son has recently committed suicide. And after his funeral, the husband decides he didn't like the funeral, and he wants to tell some of the truths that were left out at the during what was spoken at the funeral. And so they talk a lot about things that Mormons would recognize as kind of cultural Mormon tropes and references. There's a lot of talk of church history and the family's involvement in church history. So Mormonism was founded in the 1800s, and there were early believers in Mormonism that were instrumental in the Mormon church surviving till today. And a lot of people who grow up as Mormons have ancestors that were part of those early believers. And there's a lot of love and acknowledgement given to those early believers for just the effort and sacrifice that they gave in behalf of their faith. A character remembers that Andy, the son of these two Mormon parents, Andy remembers his family's history. He says, "Andy brought me here to the graveyard a few years ago. He wanted me to see his great-grandpa's grave. Told me how his great-grandpa walked all the way across the plains, 8 years old. Andy was very proud of his family. Showed me all those genealogy things, pictures, stories. We're pioneers," he said. "On my mom's side, we came with Lafayette to help fight in the Revolutionary War. On my dad's side, we came out west with Brigham Young." Andy stood right here and read the inscription to me. "Isaac Joseph McCormick, pioneer, one step at a time." Then this character goes on to remember how Andy was trying to find a way of expressing his own story as a gay man in Mormonism. That those were two things that seemed so at odds with one another, and that there didn't really seem to be room for them to exist at the same time. And so in an attempt to find a way to balance those two things, this character writes his story and puts it on the shelf, the same shelf with his family's history of Mormons crossing the plains to Utah. So he talks about it. He says, Andy put his story in that big genealogy book with all the other stories. "Queer pioneer," he wrote. "I would like to be understood. Maybe someday." And I like that. I think that Andy, that character, is doing what we were just talking about doing. That he's trying to take the questions of the old and apply it to the new. There were pioneers in our past, and even if things are not lining up about their same reasons for being pioneers, we are pioneers too, in our own way. And our story is a kind of pioneer story that can compare and be contrasted with theirs. There's something interesting about interacting and interfacing with the past by placing ourselves in the context of that past event in the present. So I'm inspired by that, and I want to find ways in which my life is an example of my family's faithful past, just like Andy does in this one. May we continue to be shook and continue to be book for many more weeks and months and episodes in the future. I hope you feel better soon, and I hope I feel better soon too. Also, yeah, why did you do that?